In this video, we'll see how to configure Inter-Vlan routing using a router with multiple interfaces in EVNG. So we have seen the topology before, but the only additional topology is adding the router to it. So it's easy to understand how I actually assign those interfaces and the IP addresses as well. Let's go ahead and verify whether the interfaces has been assigned to the respective VLANs and also about the trunk port. Once those been verified, we will go ahead and configure the switch and the router for the Inter-Vlan routing. So let's go ahead and verify the switch one first. To do that, enable show VLAN. As we see here, I have created VLAN 10 and 20 and I have assigned the Ethernet 0/0 and 0/1 in VLAN 10 and 2 and 3 in VLAN 20. And to verify the other switch right here, enable show VLAN. Again, I have created VLAN 10 and 20 and 0/0 and 0/1 assigned to VLAN 10 and 0/2 and 0/3 to the VLAN 20. And also we'll try to verify the trunk port. Show interface trunk. It's in the trunking mode. And on the other side, show interface trunk, and it's also in the trunking mode. The concept of inter-VLAN routing is nothing but if one VLAN wants to communicate with another VLAN, then it is called as inter-VLAN routing. So in the previous videos, we have seen how the devices in the VLAN 10 from the switch 1 able to communicate only with the VLAN devices in the switch 2, and also the devices in the VLAN 20 were able to communicate only to the devices only present in the VLAN 20 on the other switch. But now we will be covering the concept of inter-VLAN routing. To configure the inter-VLAN routing, we will be concentrating on the switch and the router which is connected to it. So first we will configure the Ethernet 1/2 and 1/1 as the access port, and we will be assigning the Ethernet 1/1 to the VLAN 10 and the Ethernet 1/2 as VLAN 20 to carry those VLAN traffic to the router, and we will also assign the gateway IP in the router. So in order to do that, we will log into the switch first to verify whether any configuration present. Show IP interface brief. Also, we can do it with show run. As we see here, there is no configuration present in the Ethernet 1/1 and 1/2. So we are good to go and create the configs which is required for the inter-VLAN routing. So I'm going into the config mode, interface Ethernet /1, switch port mode access, switch port access VLAN 10, and the other interface which is 1/2. I'm configuring the interface as the access port and associate the interface to the VLAN 20. Once done, exit out of the config, save, and then show VLAN. As we see here, the Ethernet 1/1 is associated to the VLAN 10 and 1/2 associated to VLAN 20. Those interfaces will carry the VLAN 10 and 20 respectively to the router. So we have configured the necessary configuration required in the switch. We will now go ahead and configure the router. Enable mode, show IP interface brief. We see everything is administratively down, and also verify the configs. As we see, there's no other configs present in the Ethernet 0/1 and 0/2. So now we will go ahead and configure the interface Ethernet 0/1, assign the default gateway IP address. which is nothing. For this one, we have used 192.168.1.100. So I'm going to assign IP address 192.168.1.100 with the subnet of 255.0, no shut. And for the other interface, and for the next interface, we will assign the IP address of 2.0. As we have given, the default gateway IP is 2.0. Once assigned, no shut, and save the config. So if you see this error in the evng, switch the config of the Ethernet to full duplex, since the switch is also working on the full duplex. So it's a usual error in the evng. So we'll go into the config mode, interface range, Ethernet 0/1 to 2, changing the duplex to full. Once done, write the configs, and now there will be no errors popping up here and there. To verify whether the Inter-Vlan routing is working or not, we will go to the PC3, which is present in the VLAN 10, and try to communicate with the PC5 present in the VLAN 20. To do that, ping 192.168.2.1. As you can see, the Inter-Vlan routing is perfectly working. And also, let's verify the PC6. We're able to communicate with the PC7, which is present in the VLAN 10. Ping 192.168.1.3. And now the devices in the VLAN 20 is able to communicate with the VLAN 10, which is present on the other switch as well. So we have successfully configured the Inter-Vlan routing with router with multiple interfaces. So I would like to state some disadvantages as well. The major disadvantage of implementing this method is not scalable, leads to the scalability issue, meaning that the routers usually doesn't contain as many ports or interfaces as switch does. And just imagine you have 4094 VLANs in your enterprise network and connecting each interfaces to each VLAN. No way it will be scalable. Hope it's informative, and see you all in next video.